Proverbs 16:9 says that in their hearts humans plan their course, but it is the Lord who establishes his steps. As Christian mothers, we can have this plan in our head and we see what it looks like, and then we fall short of that plan with our children, and we feel like failures of homeschool moms. We feel like we're failing our kids. I am a public school kid through and through. I'm a 90s kid. That was me. I never saw myself homeschooling. But then when I made the decision with my husband to stay home with our kids, I just assumed that is what I would be doing. And now I'm homeschooling 4 out of my 6 kids. I stay home full time. I've homeschooled them all the way along. I've never done a homeschool co-op, and my kids have turned out just fine. I've never even used a curriculum. I had it in my head, you know, how I wanted homeschooling to be, how I thought it would look. And, now that I'm really in the groove of things, it doesn't look anything like how I thought it would. You know, juggling toddlers and reading, writing, and math, and just all the things. Sometimes it can just get so crazy, right? I remember when I first started homeschooling, I had this image in my head how I saw homeschooling going, but I quickly realized that I was just so overwhelmed. And that is when I asked the Lord, "What do you want me to focus on?" And I felt like he said, "Reading, writing, and math. Teach them to read, do math, and to write." And so this really, really freed me because, I had been looking around at everybody else, all the homeschool moms, all the curriculum, and I'm like, I got to do that. The thought of a co-op just totally stressed me out. And, so God really freed me by saying, teach them to read, write, and do math. Years later, this was about maybe 3 years ago, I was reading a book, and the author of this book, she said, something that really freed me. She said, oftentimes as homeschooling moms, we try to replicate public school at home. And when she said that, it totally set me free. And so it brought me back to the drawing board again because, now I have 6 kids. At that time, I was probably pregnant with my 6th. Yeah, because he's going to be 2. I was pregnant, or maybe a little bit after that I was pregnant. But anyways, I was overwhelmed. Wherever I was in my life, I felt like God brought me back to the drawing board again. Danielle, teach them to read, write, and do math. Now that I'm a little bit older, I look at it and I'm like, my homeschool probably doesn't look anything like your homeschool. Your homeschool may not look anything like mine, but that is completely okay. As long as we're following the guidelines set for our state and we're adhering to the governing authorities, over us, we are completely okay. Everything is going to be all right. It's going to look different. Our lives do look different. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but it is the Lord who establishes his steps. When everything feels like it's falling apart in your day or something like that, maybe we need to pivot. Maybe we're trying to press an image on our child, and maybe they're just really struggling and we need to pull back. That is the joy of homeschooling, is that we can go at their pace. This is something new I'm doing this year. I am actually schooling through the summer. I'm doing what is called the 6-7 method. Maybe it's called the creation method. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but we school for 6 weeks, and then the 7th week we take off. So although we're not doing like a big school break, like the public schools system does, we have more breaks throughout the year. And then this year, I'm actually going to wait until the CAT people, academic excellence, that's who we go through. I'm going to wait till they mark it down on Black Friday, and maybe we'll do our test around then, or maybe after Thanksgiving or something like that. Like, it can look how you want it to look. For example, one thing that I really loved as a child myself, and I think really helped me with my reading and my writing, was word searches. I just fell in love with them. I did them for extra credit in biology because in 7th grade, I wasn't good at it. And so I would just do them for fun to kind of like get them in the bank. And it's so silly to do a word search for extra credit. But the teacher, that's what he said you could do, is you could do a word search. And so I fell in love with word searches. And now words just jump out at me. I'm kind of good at English, and that's more my forte than math. But incorporate things that bring you joy. So I have what's called morning work, and that is my kids in their free time, they will do their word search, their spelling, and then write me a paper. Whether that is copying something or just coming up with their own paper, that is their morning quiet work. And so basically they can't go outside and enjoy their day until they get that done. And then I will call everybody in individually for math. So that is our morning work, and how I've incorporated something I love into the way that I school. Another thing that I have done this year, although it's not a curriculum, is I have begun supplementing with Monarch. And so I really like them because you can just purchase one class and it's $10 a month. And so that comes out to being really cheap, per day. But I just supplement with my kids. Um, Speaking of math, my older son, he's in 7th grade math. He skipped 6th grade because it was just too easy for him. And so he's in 7th grade math, although he is 12. And math is something that I really struggled with as a kid. And one thing I am doing is I just kind of accepted. I'm like, okay, I'm in math. I am in math, because it's harder to help your kid do their work if you're just jumping in the middle of their lesson, whatever, trying to help them. How do you help them? And so I kid you not, I went and I ordered myself a notebook, and it says Mom's Math Notebook on it. And we sit down and we do our lessons together. God is really redeeming me because I'm doing that. I really struggled with math as a kid. And so I've always kind of had it in my head, you're stupid because you're not good with math. Well, God is coming alongside me as the parent and redeeming me in that way and saying, Danielle, look, you're not stupid. You can take the test and you're not, like, I don't even remember doing the things that Elijah's doing. Like, for example, we just got done dividing decimals, and I don't even remember doing that. I'm sure I struggled, and then I just got shoved along. And so, yeah, the beautiful thing about homeschooling is you can go at their pace, but God is redeeming my heart. In their heart, humans plan their course, but it is the Lord who establishes his steps. If we are kicking against the goads, maybe we need to pivot. Maybe we need to do something different. Go back to the drawing board. Ask God, what do you want my kids to know? What are the state guidelines that you need to adhere by? And then work it into your lifestyle. Bring your husband in on this because he's the leader of your home. Teach them to read, write, and do math, bare minimum, right? And then we can supplement with everything else. But I would love to come alongside you and just share what I've learned along the way here. Like I said, I've never used a curriculum with any of my kids. I just kind of piece it together. My kids always score high. And like I said, this is the first year that we're schooling through the summer. So if you have any questions or comments about that, please let them know down below. Until next time, bye for now.